NBA free agency is finally here, Bulls fans. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and I wanted to give you guys the latest news and rumors around what I'm hearing around the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be diving into first. I do want to give you guys my final thoughts on the Patrick Williams deal as the contract details officially came out. And then we got some reports on DeMar DeRozan that he could be waiting for Paul George. And then I also want to give you guys my take on Zach LaVine as why I don't think it would be smart for the Bulls to trade him if they got to attach future first-round picks. I'll explain that. Then also I want to go over 5 free agent centers that I could see the Bulls signing if they do end up losing or trading Nikola Vucevic, before free agency gets underway. But first off, I want to say thank you guys so much. We're actually closing in on 8,000 subscribers here on the channel. So, hey, if you guys are not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because no matter the move, even if it is a vet minimum deal, I will drop whatever I'm doing, and I'll have a video for you guys. I was making a video in the car last night, so, if you guys, want to stay up to date on the latest around your Chicago Bulls, hit that subscribe button, and, hey, maybe we could hit 8K off this video. So, the Patrick Williams contract did come out, and my original thoughts on this were this was a great deal for the Bulls. And, you're getting a 3-and-D guy who, yes, he hasn't lived up to the expectations of the 4th overall pick that we had. Just, we thought he was probably going to be an all-star at this point in his career. I was very high on him coming out, but he is still extremely valuable. And, the cap hits for each season stand like this. Next year, he'll be on the books for 15.5, jumps up to 16.7, 2026, 18 flat, 2027, 19, and then 2028, $20 million. So I love the way they set up this deal. I think this is a, not really a prove-it contract for Patrick Williams, but when this contract's over, he's going to be 27, and let's just say he plays his ass off over the next couple of years. He could be in line for a huge payday. So overall, I love the move. Just kind of want to wrap up my thoughts on that. But let's talk about the 2 main pieces of the Chicago Bulls puzzle here, and that's DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. We'll start off with DeMar. So I think DeMar DeRozan, is an interesting piece in this free agency puzzle. I think he is going to wait on Paul George and see what he decides to do. Because if you look at the teams Paul George is meeting with, like teams like the Magic, the Warriors, and the Sixers, I think all 3 of those teams could also be interested in DeMar DeRozan. So I think DeMar's deal is going to come after Paul George makes his decision, and keep your eyes out on Philadelphia. They have been very adamant about getting that 3rd star next to Maxey, next to Embiid, and let's just say PG decides to go elsewhere. DeMar, I could see him making a whole lot of sense there in Philadelphia. So if I had to predict where DeMar goes, I would probably go Philly. Could the Bulls somehow perform a sign and trade with that? We'll have to wait and see on that. But DeMar's decision, I don't think this is going to come, right when free agency breaks. Because as we know, free agents, they're going to sign right as 5 p.m., hits tonight. But I think DeMar is going to be a deal where he's going to see how the landscape kind of shakes out. He's older in his career. Normally see that being the case with a lot of these older guys. So expect DeMar to make his decision after Paul George. Now, let's dive into the Zach LaVine report. So I think it was Bobby Marks who threw out there that the Bulls were trying to attach first-round picks to Zach LaVine to move off him. And I have been in the camp, if you guys have watched, this channel for the past couple of weeks, that the Bulls should move off Zach LaVine. No doubt about it. I think that should have been priority number 1 this offseason. Move off that contract, start fresh. It just allows other players in your system to develop. However, if the Bulls would have to attach another first-round pick for Zach LaVine, I think that would be a huge mistake. Because the Bulls right now, they're embracing this youth movement. They're embracing this rebuild. And if you're going to give up future draft capital just to move off LaVine, I think it's idiotic. I don't think the Bulls front office would do that. At least I hope they would not. But obviously, we know with how they've been ran the past couple of years, anything is on the table. But, what about this? I don't hate this scenario for the Bulls. Let's just say, DeRozan walks, whatever. You're able to find a trade suitor for Nikola Vucevic. Maybe you get a first, maybe you get a young player, whatever it may be. And then you roll in the next season with Josh Giddey at the 1, Kobe White at the 2, Zach LaVine at the 3, Williams at the 4, whatever center you want to plug in there at the 5, maybe it's Andre Drummond. Would that team be good? Probably not. Probably will lose a lot of games. They would be exciting, though. They would be a very exciting watch every single night because you've got a ton of offensive talent in Kobe White and Zach LaVine, and you have a guy like Josh Giddey who's going to be able to get them the basketball. So, I think right now Zach LaVine's trade value is obviously at an all-time low, and, I honestly feel bad for him. I feel like he's been getting disrespected because he's a hell of a basketball player, man. And, obviously that contract and the 15% trade kicker, like that all plays into it. But, I just think he's getting a little disrespected by other, GMs. And maybe this is just me personally listening to like what media members are saying about him, what fans are saying about him. Like, we don't really know what his value is within league circles. But if the Bulls were going to have to move off LaVine and attach a first-round pick, I just think that would be really idiotic. I just don't see any reason to do so. But it's the Bulls. We don't know what they're thinking, but what if LaVine goes out first 30 games of the season, averages 25, very efficient, and the Bulls are losing games, and then a contender calls you at the trade deadline, and they're like, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick for him of next year's draft, which is absolutely loaded. You take it and run. And, I think teams, I think it's just natural. Like, this summer, there is not really, obviously there is some sort of, sense of desperation, but I think that really increases at the deadline because what if you're Philly and let's just say you strike out on Paul George, you're not able to get DeRozan, and you're just running it back, and let's just say you're a very good basketball team. You're about like 215 or you're about like 15-2 or whatever it may be, like, and then you look at LaVine and you're like, that could be the piece that could get us over the top. We'll just throw him a first, come over to Philly or whatever it may be, or any contender could do that. So if the Bulls are attaching a first to LaVine, I'm out on it. I just don't really think it makes too much sense. But I do want to talk about some potential Nikola Vucevic replacements because I think if the Bulls are going to make a big signing this offseason, or not a big signing, but a signing this offseason, I think it's going to be at the center position because obviously Drummond, he's hitting free agency and there's question marks around Vooch, whether he will get traded. Hey, I'm telling you, Bulls front office, if there's anybody watching this video, trade him now. Just get him off the books, get him off this basketball team. It would just create a better atmosphere on the court, and I just think, the benefits of trading Vooch will really be seen, once the season starts. And I'm not even talking about the assets you would get back. It would be more of an addition by subtraction. But, let's just say they are able to move him. I got 5 centers to keep your eyes on, and my number one target would be James Wiseman. And, let's just say, like I said, DeRozan does walk. You're able to trade Vooch, run it back with LaVine, and you got Giddey, Kobe White, LaVine, Patrick Williams, James Wiseman, Io, Buzelis off the bench, and then you got like just random filling guys like Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry. Like, I actually like that group. Like, that's a young, fun team that can all develop together. And the thing about James Wiseman, he was obviously the second overall pick for a reason. Freak athlete, really long, can protect the rim. He is a solid lob threat as well. I just don't necessarily love his touch. I don't love his instincts. I don't love his dog. And at that center spot, like, it's very similar to like offensive linemen in football. Like, I think you need that. Like, you can have all the physical tools, all the measurables, but if you don't have that want, you don't have that heart and hustle, I think it's tough to be like super, super effective at that center position, but he is a young guy. Maybe he grows up. Maybe he starts taking this a whole lot more serious. And James Wiseman, we could be looking at him like a Clint Capella type of player, even better than that. Like, he has that potential. And if we're getting reports that he could be taking a $2-3 million deal, Chicago, get on that line. Call James Wiseman. Like, I would be thrilled if we could get him because the Bulls are in a position right now where they can take risk on, like, these minuscule signings. Like, I would rather have the Bulls take a chance on a guy like James Wiseman than, honestly, a guy like Andre Drummond. And I love Andre Drummond. But I would rather have the Bulls take a chance on that potential in comparison to, leaning for a guy that's going to maybe have more of an impact the first year he's here in Chicago. Because the Bulls, they reset their timeline, or at least I hope they are. I'm assuming they are. There's obviously some moves that, need to be made. But in 3, 4, 5 years from now, having James Wiseman, maybe you sign him to what if you sign Wiseman to the MLE? 4 for 55. I would actually be okay with that. Like, yes, people would view that as an overpay, and I understand, but you could be looking back on that contract as an absolute steal. So I would love James Wiseman, but some other guys, Andre Drummond, obviously he was with the Bulls last season. You guys know a whole lot about him. Love Drummond. Drummond's one of my favorite players that I've watched over the past couple seasons for the Bulls. Great offensive rebounder. And, if you are able to move off Vooch and Drummond's your starting center, again, I would be absolutely thrilled about that. But I think Drummond's going to want to go play for a contender. I think he's realized that, at this stage in his career. Let me actually look this up real quick. I think Drummond, he's still relatively young. I don't know if he's pushing 30 yet. Let me see. Oh, no, he is 30 years old. I always thought Drummond was always younger than that. But he's been in the league a while. Like, maybe he's thinking, like, hey, I'm going to go play for the Lakers. I want to go play for, a team that's closer to contending, rather than the Chicago Bulls. Like, we heard the reports that he was going to sign with the Mavericks last year. I'm sure he was like, man, I should have went and done that. But I would love if Drummond came back. Clearly loves Chicago, so that's definitely an option. Nick Richards, center for the Hornets, is another guy. Very similar to Wiseman. He's a little more polished, a little more refined right now in his career, but freak athlete, big body, super strong. And again, that archetype of that rim protecting lob threat, center, that's the type of guy I want with this Bulls team, especially with Josh Giddey at the point guard and Kobe White. Like, if you're allowing them to get downhill, and we know Giddey loves that floater game, like, if you got to have the big who's, running drop coverage or whatever it may be, and you're attacking him, and it's like, hey, I'm either taking this floater or I'm throwing it over the top or I'm going right at your chest and finishing over you. Like, I think having that lob threat type of center could really be good, for the Bulls. Another guy, Jackson Hayes, obviously doesn't have the potential, and this would be out of all the centers, this would probably be the most disappointing option, but I wouldn't mind it because, again, we are all in on this rebuild. We are all in on this youth movement. Like, I understand, all these moves I'm making. Like, I'm not saying the Bulls or I'm saying they should make. I'm not saying the Bulls are going to be better next year. This is for down the line. This is for resetting this timeline and just developing this team. So I think Jackson Hayes would be another good option. But what about Gogo Bitadze and, the center for the Magic who killed the Bulls this past season? I think he had his career nights against the Bulls. But I wouldn't mind him. Obviously, he's not, the lob threat that these other guys are, but he's a very solid defender, super long. I love his feel. I love his touch around the rim. He would be a more expensive option, probably on the MOE, but, I wouldn't mind taking a chance on him either. If you do move off Vooch, Bitadze is a way better defender than Vooch, and he's got the same touch. Like, I would rather have him running that 5 spot in comparison to anybody else. But yeah, that's my final thoughts on free agency. Gets underway here at 5 p.m. So if you guys aren't already, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And good times are coming here for the Chicago Bulls. But we'll see you guys next time. As always, go Bulls.